If we take our new project file, which I have a copy of in the working files called My New Project, there are a couple of other little pieces of information that need setting up before we get involved in the nitty-gritty of actually adding tasks. First bit of information is access through File and Info, and that brings up some project information here. It tells me the start date, the finish date, how to schedule, current date, status date, last modified, which calendar to use, and the default priority for tasks. And we can make changes to any of these. You can see there's a little drop down, but we're going to access this information from a slightly different source. Before we look at the scheduling start and end, we need to go into Project Information, Advanced Properties. That will bring you up the Properties dialog box, which, as well as General, Statistics, Contents, and Custom, I'm interested in the Summary. This has a number of editable fields. Now, the ones above the horizontal line are important. The title of the project, the subject of the project, the author of the project, the manager, and the company, because these fields can be used in the Gantt chart when it comes to printing or as special fields, and we'll see them in use as we work through the title. For the moment, they need to make sense. So the title of the project needs to really be the title of the project. What is the project about? My new bedroom. Subject: bedroom revitalization. Who's the author? Well, that's just picked up my SkyDrive login. So the author is Guy Vaccaro. The manager is going to be Mickey Mouse. And the company is going to be Builders Inc. Now, the fields below the horizontal line are really for your Windows operating system so that you can find this file. So if you categorize it, add a few keywords and some comments, it means you'll be able to search for the file much easier in your Windows system. We're not really interested in those at the moment. You might be if you're used to doing that for all your files. Bits that are important for project are these 5 fields here. You don't need to fill them all in. You might just fill in the title and the author. I filled them all in so that we can see where they're going to appear when we use them. So that's the Project Information Advanced Properties. If I say OK, we can see that was successful. From File, Info, Project Information Advanced Properties. And the information is still there because it's saved with the file. Now, the other bits of information that we need to set for our project at this stage is on the Project ribbon, Project Information. And you'll see that these titles here are pretty much the same as we saw under File and Info anyway. I either need to set a start date or an end date for our project. Notice that the end date is grayed out, it's not available, because we're choosing to schedule from the project start date. You can choose to effectively schedule backwards, project finish date, in which case you can then alter the finish date. And most projects plan forwards. Even those that have a target date tend to plan forwards, but you could plan backwards. We might pick a project finish date of the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro and then work backwards from there. But I'm going to work forwards. I need to choose a start date for my project. Now, that start date can be any date. If at the moment you actually haven't started and you're just planning, it could be just an arbitrary start date. And I'm going to choose the 1st of January 2013 since we're dealing with project 2013. Current date is here. Now, strangely, you can actually change the current date, and we'll see how that can be useful as we work through, but for the moment we'll leave that as the current date. There is then a status date option so that you can choose a date in time to measure yourself against. We have a choice of different calendars, which we will explore. At the moment you can see there's just 3 default ones that are built in: standard, night shift and 24 hours. It's the standard calendar, if I just move that over, that causes Saturday and Sunday to be grayed out because we don't work in the standard calendar on a Saturday and Sunday. We can set the default priority for new tasks. This is 500. It's in the middle effectively between 1 and 1000. So your tasks can be prioritized to any degree between 1 and 1000, which seems like a wide scale. But the idea is that you could set 500 for some, 600 for another, 700 for another, and you can then move tasks priority to be between other tasks by coming down to, say, 550. So that's halfway between 500 and 600. Whereas if you just had a 1 to 10 option, it would be very difficult to then drop tasks between in a priority list. So this project information needs setting for your project. You could come in here and change this at any time. You may need to move a whole project forward. So you would come in and change its start date, and the whole project would then move forwards, assuming you'd made your tasks auto-scheduled, which I have down here. I've mentioned this previously, but it really makes things easier to control in project if you let Microsoft Project do some of the planning effectively. So it will schedule the tasks based on project start date and each task's relationship with each other. So we set the project information here in the project information dialog box. Don't forget the advanced properties, which you have to go to File, Info, and Advanced Properties to do. This information is vitally important as well because we can make use of it in our projects. I would certainly say the title and the author as a minimum should be entered here. Okay. We can also see on that File and Info that we can change the start date from within here. We can change the schedule from start to finish, so you decide whether you're scheduling from the beginning or the end of the project, therefore backwards. And you can change the calendar, current date, status date, and the modified date changes itself based on when the project was last modified. So some of that project information can be done here, and some can be done through the project information dialog box. Now that information is stored with the project, so you would need to make sure you saved to top up those changes to the project. And we have a little save disk icon on the quick access toolbar. So that's your project information, start and finish, and the properties. We're now ready to start adding tasks to our project.